Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today from Sweden is Vahagn Avedian, who is founder, editor of Armenica.org, as well as spokesman for the Union of Armenian Associations of Sweden, which of course means there's several. Vahagn, thank you for joining us on CivilNet.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Please, how many associations in Sweden?
Well, the member associations of our organization are now about 14, and we have 2 more applicants coming in at the moment, so there will be either 15 or 16.
And of course, you know that the purpose of our conversation today is the recent visit of Turkey's President Gul to Sweden, which got a lot of international press. It was hugely popular in the Turkish press because he took with him the representative, the vicar of the Syriac Orthodox Church, the Assyrian community. And that was seen as a great gesture towards the minorities of Turkey. And of course, there are a huge number of Assyrians, Syriacs, in Sweden, as there are Syrians and Turks and Lebanese and Kurds and of course Armenians. How was the visit viewed in Sweden? Was it Gul's visit that was important, or the accompaniment of the minority religious leader that was important?
Well, if I answer the second part of the question, I think it was a lot emphasis on the big delegation that President Gul had with him to Sweden, and there were 100 and more people in his delegation, including a couple of ministers. But the entire media coverage of the Gul visit was a bit strange, because the visit of that dignity is usually covered, or gets much more coverage in the press. And the first 2 days, actually, if you went online and looked into the major newspapers and media channels in Sweden, you couldn't even tell that Gul was visiting Sweden. So there are a couple of theories about it. I'm not really sure which one to believe, but
what are they?
And one of them is about media more or less boycotting Gul because of the situation of freedom of press, and Turkey being the #1 in the list of countries who jail journalists around the world. And this was a way of protesting that circumstances. But also maybe that would be because of the, and as I said, these are conspiracy theories, nothing that is confirmed, but that government of Sweden has asked the media to lay low and let them to make these signings of the treaties and strategic contracts on all that in peace, instead of getting a lot of attention and focus on the controversy regarding the shortcomings of Turkey, whether it's freedom of press, minorities, the genocide denial, etc.
Yeah, a little bit harder to believe, but generally the fact that the Syriac vicar was with him was of interest to the other minorities? There's a huge Syrian and Lebanese and Kurdish and Turkish minority, of course.
I wouldn't say so. It was mentioned that this is a very bold and huge step by Turkey to include such a representative in a Turkish official delegation. But then again, it was clearly connected to the fact that Sweden has the largest Assyrian community in the world. So it was a way of mitigating their criticism and the role that this large community has had in Sweden in regard to the genocide recognition in the Riksdag, but also the critic that they have received in Turkey in regard to the confiscation of the Syriac monasteries in Turkey.
Vahagn, there are, as we've said several times, many minorities in Sweden originally from Turkey, or having something to do with Turkey, or at the very best, at the very least, in the Ottoman Empire. Is their cooperation in Sweden outside of Turkey any easier than it is when they're in Turkey? Do the Turks and the Syrians and the Kurds and the Armenians work together in Sweden in any way to address Turkey's issues regarding their minorities?
Unfortunately, I would say that the cooperation, at least with the Turkish groups and associations, are almost non-existing. There, in the beginning, or a couple of years ago, there was a much more tighter cooperation between our organizations and the Assyrians and the Syriacs and also the Kurds and the Pontic Greeks. However, in the recent years, it has gone a bit more cold, and we have also some issues, facing some issues, internal issues between the different Syriac groups, which is unfortunate for this cooperation. They have maybe it's known to you, but we have different Syriac groupings who would call them Syriacs or Assyrians or Chaldeans or Arameans, and they don't quite get along internally, and that spills over into the cooperation with us as well. We have started some initiatives to cooperate again with all these groups, and hopefully we will have a mutual understanding on our common interest and issues. But as it goes with the Turks, I'm sorry to say that we don't have that kind of cooperation with them at all.
What did the Armenian community, the Armenian associations do, if anything, on the occasion of Gul's visit?
On the first day of his visit, coinciding with his reception at the Royal Castle, we had a flying banner over central Stockholm, which flew with the text, Turkey recognized the 1915 genocide in Swedish. And that airplane flew about 2.5 hours above central Stockholm, and which I think has got quite good reception around the world, at least in Armenian and also in Turkish press. Here in Sweden, there was no talk about it, but I wouldn't say that it was excluding that part per se, but that was maybe a side effect of not covering the Gul visit in the manner that you would expect such a visit to have in media. And yesterday, when he spoke at the Riksdag, the Swedish Parliament, we had a joint action, a manifestation together with Assyrian representatives and people in front of the Swedish Riksdag, about 150-200 people who came to the demonstration. It was a really chilly, windy day, but we managed to gather 200 people about 2 hours in front of the Riksdag.
Last question. How large is the Armenian community, especially now I assume there are Syrian refugees as well?
Well, we don't have any specific numbers due to the illegal Armenian immigrants, but we are guessing somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 in entire Sweden, but they are spread in entire Sweden, so there is no larger concentration in a particular part of the Sweden.
Thank you. It's an interesting way to look at communities in surprising, untraditional places. We've been talking to Vahagn Avedian, who is spokesman for the Union of Armenian Associations of Sweden, and also the founder and editor of Armenica.org, on the occasion of Turkish President Gul's visit to Stockholm. Thank you, Vahagn, for speaking with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching CivilNet.